poppin'? Squad, it's your boy Jesimein. Today we have my signature build, the build that everybody hates, the build that they call cheesy, the build that I use the most when I'm getting stream sniped, when I have to deal with all the tryhard builds all in one. Of course, it is my Nomad build. Now, for a lot of people who've been watching my videos, most of my set gameplay when I'm not making build videos is on this build. I love this build. This is my favorite build in the meta. Obviously, because I like staying alive. I like having multiple lives in situations where I'm supposed to die. Those 1v4s, those 1v8s, those 1v servers, you know what I'm saying? You guys know how it goes. But a lot of people run Nomad, and everybody has their own way. Some people feel you need more firearms, which I can understand. You know, you want to do more damage because you don't get any buffs with the build itself. So you want to be able to make up for that with firearms. But the way I run mine is obviously based on life itself, and that is full-fledged stamina. And without further ado, let's get into it. So you guys can see off rip, 4,000 firearms, 9,200 stamina, and 2,900 electronics. The gun I will always use and only use with Nomad is the same one I've been using, obviously. I mean, this gun was literally made and rolled just for this Nomad build, and it kind of applied to the rest of my build. So it is a vicious and deadly house, and the reason I use vicious and deadly obviously is because I'm gonna get that crit 99% of the time. I mean, most of the time with Nomad, since I do stick with an overheal all the time, as you can see in the bottom right, I'm going to be over 2 segments like most of the fight. I mean, there's very rare situations where I need it and I don't have it. So with this build, you're going to be fighting a lot with big chunks of health. So vicious is practically like a set talent that's always to be activated, and deadly for that free damage because it coincides with vicious. Being that I'm going to get those crits, deadly is the more optimal choice instead of responsive, because I'm going to be getting that 15% buff on most of my damage anyways, because I'm going to be hitting high crits. And obviously any healing weapon that you have, I just so happen to have a lightweight M4. Honestly, if I were you, I would have a showstopper with these shame talents, only because it just does the job faster. If you have like NPCs with like armor and you don't have time to sit there and try to beat them with an M4. But I have predatory, self-reserve, and sustain, so I just switch this weapon and either finish off an NPC or finish off a player, so I can get that little bit of health from sustain, the health on kill from the build itself, the self-preserve whenever I'm shooting something, and obviously the predatory, which is really good with this build, being that you have such a high health pool. So going into the build itself, it is a Nomad build, obviously. Roll for health and skill haste for obvious reasons. To get your health back as fast as possible, you need that skill haste, and you want to have full health rolled anyways. The mods I have are firearms with health, and the only reason I have them here is because I still need to be able to unlock my talents, so I need to have just enough. So going down to my mask, roll for crit chance to just put out some more damage, stamina main roll, and I have a firearms with health. So you're gonna need roughly around 3,800, I believe. Yeah, so you need 3,832. So you can even take away a mod and somehow, some way, if you have a reroll and you're able to be good, you can somehow push 3,800. I would say stick around 4,000. That's a good point. You don't need to be 100% like right on the dot with 3,832. So just do what you can, but have your firearms around 4,000 and you'll be good. So going into the knee pads, this is where I switched it up. So originally I would have health, and I found that it really wasn't necessary. And being in that we're in this meta, it's not that necessary to be that tanky. Obviously you are outrageously tanky compared to other builds, but you can opt into more damage right here. So I have crit hit damage. A lot of people would roll health because it's just the more health you have, the bigger overheal, and that's how I originally ran my build. But for this meta, I changed it up because I felt I need to be able to put pressure on them, being that they don't have heals, especially other nomads. So I want to make sure that I have that, and I kind of rely on the fact that I have my overheal to be able just to face tank it. So going into the backpack, also right here, this is where I opted in for more damage. So that's crit hit damage here as well. You can see just with these two, that's already 16% crit damage, which is basically like having a whole nother deadly. And the health is good to have if you feel like you can't deal with the pressure, which you should be. I think most players at this point, if you're watching this video, you should be able to deal with whatever pressure with running this build, because this build is just designed like that. But the happy sweet spot, I'm sorry, is having crit hit damage on both of these, because you're still outrageously tanky. You have a health pool that keeps going up no matter what, so you don't need to really have the support station support, obviously, besides cleansing. So opt into damage here. I would tell you this is exactly how I would run it, and it does work, I promise you. So on my mods, this is why I have stamina with health and first aid self heal. Do not run anything else but first aid self heal, because you want as much abuse of your stamina as possible, And whether you're going to be running overdose or you're going to be running booster, you want to have the biggest chunk of health possible, being that you're not specking into skill power at all with this build. Going into the gloves, God roll gloves. I opted in for skill haste. I'm happy I have skill haste over this because it's more important than me needing that extra little crit hit chance. Since I have vicious anyways, it's not that big of a deal. If somebody's running pulse on your team, you're pretty much hitting as much crits as you possibly can anyway. So skill haste is definitely a better option for this. If you don't have it, don't worry. It's still, you're going to be doing a little bit more damage than I am anyways if you have crit chance, but skill haste would be the optimal role for this in this situation. Do not opt out your crit hit damage. That is way more important than that little percent of crit chance that you're going to get anyways, being that you already have a high crit chance to start with. So going into the holster, obviously speaks for itself. Just a regular old holster, roll for health. Do not roll for crit chance. Do not get too hungry on crit chance. A lot of people are going to try to spec into as much crit chance as possible because they feel that Nomad's not going to do enough damage. I promise you, running like this, try it out and just see how smooth their health bars go down when you're face tanking, especially because you get to face tank 10 times more than they do. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the general build. Explain how I use it now. This is the part where this is my opinion. This is how I play it. And most people who I talked to on stream who wanted to see this build, they like the way I play it. They like the results that happen. So your main thing is not your procs. Honestly, you can go with, let's say they took procs off this build, the build will still feel the same to me personally, because I consider procking in my own head as a failure. So you play the position as if you don't have procs. A lot of people use Nomad and they abuse the fact they have the proc. Like, oh, I'm gonna burn this to get the kill. I play opposite. I do not want to proc. That doesn't exist in my head. I play it as if I never had a proc to begin with, and in dire emergencies is when I'll have to use a proc. Obviously, you should never proc while face tanking. You should never proc while strafing. The only time you should be proc is while trying to escape to get heals. That's my logic. You fight until you're about to die, then you back up, you retreat, you take cover, do what you got to do to stop yourself from procking. Do not allow yourself to proc out of thirst to finish a kill or in any situation, because this is what you're going to need when you're trying to, especially if you're going manhunt and you're going against a server, which is theoretically how I experience it. You want to be able to do that and have that on emergency, not on reliance. Let me make that clear. It's an emergency buff, not something you rely on, and that's how you play this build. I designed this build around that concept. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to run this build the correct way, if you're about to die, do not sit there and try to burn. Recover yourself, get away from the fight, recuperate, get your health back, get that overheal back, and then go back in the fight. Okay, that's how you do it. So that's how I'm doing it. But when you do have your overheal and you're in a situation, depending on what build you're fighting, you have to play with a mindset. So with Predator Mark, face tank them to death. Okay, I don't care if you're bleeding, burn through it until you're about like maybe 2 bar or 1 bar. That's and then you get away with your med kit and get away from that fight until you can get your overheal back up. 9 times out of 10, you will pressure them out of shooting you for a second rotation of bleed anyways. That's when you cleanse and you can push and you can do that. Now for any other build, it's pretty much light work. Most DPS builds can't do anything against it if you are hitting your shots, because they don't have health pools if they're running firearms. So as long as you're managing your heals correctly, you're going to be good. You're not going to have to really worry about DPS builds. The main problem you're going to have really obviously is going to be Preds, and that's easy to be cleansed if you play smart with your med kits and with your support station. Being that you don't need your support station as much, if I were you, throw the support station where they're not going to be able to shoot it. You know what I'm saying? Because if you have a support station up, Predator's Marks can't do nothing to you. I mean, their burst damage is not enough to sustain them in a fight if you're face tanking them. And I promise you, it may seem scary, but you're going to get used to the patterns fighting optimized Predator builds, and you're going to know what kind of damage they could put out, and you're going to be able to plan accordingly. So that's how I run it. That's how I see it. That's how I would apply it. Now going into the skills, right here, this is where you can choose. I personally like this combo with Concealed and Support Station because obviously it shuts down crits. With other people's pulses, people are running those high pulses, they're doing a lot of damage. You can, if you feel safe, dealing with the damage in the server. This is all obviously situational depending on what you're fighting in the server. You can obviously run a first aid and run any of the variants. A really good one to run with this build, being that this is if you want to be more supportive. Like a lot of people say Nomad doesn't have support capabilities. I'm telling you, holding this defib is a huge support. So being that you don't need that heal as much, You want to be able to hold this defib and save it for when your teammate goes down. Run over them, and you can go into situations where most other builds will probably get burned and try to get that clutch heal off the rip. You know what I'm saying? And revive your teammate and kind of face tank and body block for them so they can get the position and you guys can reset. That's the main first aid I would run. If I'm gonna run a first aid, I'm gonna run the defib because it adds support capabilities to your team. If you're solo, obviously there's no point in running it. The heal's not worth it for you. This is specifically for the utility, and I promise you, when you apply it, you're basically a walking medic for healing. You know what I'm saying? Not for burst heal in a fight, but for revives. And you can easily, I mean, if you want to be, super annoying, any turret is crazy with Nomad because any pressure that's taken off of a Nomad gives them time to survive. People call it cheesy, but it is what it is. It's the meta. Do what you have to do to survive. Simple as that. Because if you don't do it, somebody else will, and that's kind of the logic I live by. So if you need a flame turret, you're dealing with so many people, you need some crowd control, you're able to run this because you're not too dependent on your second skill. You can pretty much have a support station for clans and then run any other skill that you want, and that's kind of the open capabilities of Nomad and why I like it so much, because I don't have to rely on certain skills like a DPS build would, where they would need a pulse, they would need a booster. You know what I'm saying? They have to have a station. If you don't even need a station, it's just smart to have just to end the whole predator shred. So that's just something to look for. Now, as far as my talents, these are the set talents that I run, and I do not ever change them. Critical save obviously makes you OP. Strike back, if you want to be supportive, you can opt out on one is none and take combat medic, which what I would do in a team situation, being that you don't really need one is none. It's good, but you don't need it compared to how important that combat medic would be. And on the move, which is one of the most powerful talents in the game. I mean, this is crazy. This is why I don't ever, people always ask me, why don't I melee somebody when they're down? It's because of this talent right here. If I go ahead and shoot somebody, I'm pretty much immortal. If I have my overheal and I shoot somebody on the floor and on the move procs, I just face tank whoever. I don't care. Tack links. I face tank them if they have defense up. I face tank them if they have recovery up. If they have pred, if they have full-fledged banshee when I'm 5-star manhunt, it doesn't matter. That this is basically temporary god mode for 10 seconds, and it feels like it. I promise you. You will go well over 1,000,000 toughness, and remember, your overheal is 40% of that. So before they even touch you, they have to get the overheal. A lot of people forget that overheal is not your base health. So that 1,000,000 toughness is just my yellow bar. You know what I'm saying? And then that green bar is 40% of that on top. So you're basically almost hitting like 1.7 mil of toughness, and that's why you're pretty much unkillable. And if you pop a defense, then I mean GG's. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I run it. That's pretty much it, you guys. I just wanted to go in full detail because this is my signature build that I use. This is the build of life. This is, in my opinion, this is the best build in the game. In my humble opinion, I've yet to have problems in any other situations where people say, well, this build's better in overall. No, I think overall Nomad is the most powerful set, and I personally think, obviously for solo, this is the best solo build you can run in the game, hands down. In all situations, depending on what, it doesn't matter who you're fighting against, doesn't matter what build you're going up against. I think a health Nomad is the strongest solo build in the game, for obvious reasons, man. We're not even unlocking the fact that you can get multiple procs when you're solo. So when you're solo, this build just gets 10 times more OP. So, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Let me not whisper OP into the air. This build is really good. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me see how you guys run your Nomads. For the people who are curious, this is my exact build. I'm not hiding anything from you. This is exactly how I'll run it. I didn't change a thing. This is just the main way. I've been running it this whole patch and even last patch, besides the change on the crit hit damage. So hopefully you guys enjoy, man. Go out there, try it, roll your things like this, and let me know how much people send you mean messages about how cheesy you are, because this build is considered cheesy because it's that good. So it's been real. Thank y'all so much for watching. Hit me with a like. It helps the channel. Subscribe if you're new. If you're a Nomad fan, type Team Nomad in the chat or in the comments below. I'm thinking I'm streaming. And let me know what you guys think, man. As always, it's been real. Your boy is out.